Kia ora everyone and welcome back to Stripped and Unscripted. I'm Vixen Temple.
And I'm Madeline Rose.
Aroha mai for such a long gap between this and our last episode. October and November are very busy times of years for me, being spooky season. I get booked out. November I had I think I had a gig every weekend during November, so I was just sort of deep in that mode. Madeline went away on a very well-deserved holiday overseas, so we are now back and ready to record potentially our last episode for the year. Not ever, just for the year, but I will talk more about that at the end of the episode. But for today's kōrero, Madeline and I really want to talk about people pleasing. It's something that it's quite an interesting kōrero. I think it's very common amongst women. I myself am a recovering, healing people pleaser. Would you say that you are too, Madeline?
Definitely, I would say I've gotten so much better in probably the last year. I would say I've come very far. I don't think I really had even thought about or dived super deep into the idea of me being a people pleaser prior. But since having kind of thought about it, I've read a few books about it, and I'm kind of, I do feel like I've made quite a lot of progress with it. I will say in my earlier 20s, I was massive people pleaser to men, especially. But yeah, no, definitely.
I hear that. I completely agree. Like I said, I think it's very common for women to be people pleasers, and I will talk about my theories behind that shortly. But the reason we wanted to have this kōrero is I have recently on my Instagram noticed a lot of content being pushed to my For You page about people pleasing, and a lot of the content is created by women, especially neurodiverse women, who talk a lot about how people pleasing stems from a place of conflict avoidance. So that's also another topic of this episode, talking about conflict avoidance. But it's this interesting thing where I feel a lot of empathy towards people pleasers because, like me and Madeline have said, we are both healing people pleasers ourselves. The person I was as a child versus who I am, the woman I've become now, oh my gosh, I have come so far in regards to my people-pleasing healing. And a lot of people-pleasing tendencies, they stem from our childhood. A lot of us from young ages were taught that it's not safe to say no, and that conflict is not safe. And that word safe is something that has been sort of a prompt for me reflecting on my people pleasing, because as humans, we're looking for safety and security. And I feel that a lot of us people pleasers, the conflict avoidance, I don't think it's the conflict itself that we're afraid of. It's the perceived rejection we fear that we will get from disagreeing with a person or just saying no to someone. And I'm going to read something that I journaled on 2 weeks ago. And then I'll unpack it a little bit more and then we'll go from there. So I wrote, quote, "I always thought being liked meant being safe. I thought that if I said yes to everyone, it would make me a likable person. As I got older, I came to realize that all this did was send a message to people that I am an agreeable person. And that is not a good thing in a world full of people who are out for themselves. I was not making myself a likable person at all. I just became the person everyone took advantage of. I became the person people would look at and say, ask her, she'll say yes to anything. Through me trying to find safety through being liked, I found myself in very unsafe situations. You're not safe when people see you as an easy yes," end quote. So essentially what I was touching on there is that I came to this realization that my people pleasing came from, as they all do, came from very early childhood experiences where I learned that it's not safe to upset others. It's not safe to say no to others. I think especially as women, we get conditioned from birth to prioritize others, to look at ourselves as nurturers, to deny our needs for the benefit of others. So from a very early age, humans, we crave safety, right? We're looking for safety. And for me, in this world, especially growing up at a time of social media, of pushing external validation, for a long time, I developed this idea that being liked by others meant being safe. But as I said in my journaling, I realized as I got older, that's not the case at all. When people just look at you and think, oh, like, ask her, she'll say yes to anything. Like, that's so dangerous. People weren't respecting me. They weren't looking at me and thinking, gosh, I like her. They were looking at me and thinking, that stupid bitch will say yes to anything. She's craving so much validation. Go ask her. She will literally say yes to anything. She's so pathetic. And that, it's confronting and it sounds cruel, but it helped me a lot to get the fuck out of my people pleasing. I realized, yeah, like I said, you're not safe when people see you as an easy yes. You're not liked when people see you as agreeable. And especially for women, I think it's so important that we don't be agreeable. What are your thoughts on that, Madeline? And then we'll just go from there.
I was kind of having like a similar conversation with a coworker last night around workplace people pleasing. And I think that what you said about people viewing you as like a stupid bitch who will do anything, I think like when you people please so chronically, you definitely teach people and they learn to exploit you. When like over time, when they realize that you're just willing to say yes or do whatever and just be easy about it, they will keep coming to you. And so they become used to the fact that you're a yes man, or just like easy and like non-confrontational in any sense. And they will build habits of the way they relate to you, which will just, again, like, especially in the workplace for me, myself, because I've been that person 100%. You just give, you give, and people take, because that's what they're used to. That's what you've taught them to do. It's not to say like it's your fault, you know, that people treat you this way. Obviously, it would be really, really awesome if other people could just like have a little critical think about like, are they just asking for like the sun, the moon, and the stars from you all the time? But it really does get to this point where you just burn the living fuck out because you're just always doing yourself a disservice by saying yes to people. Yeah, like workplace people pleasing for me. I think like my people pleasing was bad with men that I was in romantic relationships with. But if I think like into my teens, I was actually like shock and horror relatively confrontational with my peers in high school. I'm an only child, but I had absolutely no issue standing up for myself in like all of my schooling years. Like I was a very small child. And so I used to catch a lot of like bullying for just being small. And I had no issues turning around and being like, literally, fuck off. I swore before a lot of my peers did in school, and I would happily tell them to fuck off. And I remember doing it in high school. I remember just like not taking any shit really. And then I would say it wasn't until I got into my 20s and I started to be sort of like mistreated with men by men more that I started to really people please quite a lot because I found it to be like, what is it? What's the phrase? It's like, there's a specific phrase, but it just means like the easiest pathway. Like it was just the safest thing for me to do would just be to not cause any difficulty. And really what that made me was a doormat. And I really like I was just like genuinely so wrapped up in that up until I probably got to like, yeah, like frontal lobe development, like 25, 26. And I just realized like, fuck, like you actually need to learn to put your fucking like foot down. Otherwise, people really will just continue to assume and behave like you are willing to just do anything and be anyone and do whatever they want you to do. And it just doesn't fucking serve you. And like, God, and like relation to like our life experiences with sex work, like people pleasing often equates to like a complete lack of boundaries. And like, aside from you being a yes man, you're like actually like in so much physical danger in sex working spaces. And so being a yes man, like it happens. There's so many dancers and other sex workers that do it. And I think it's one of the reasons that a lot of, especially in stripping, like a lot of people get chewed up and spat out quite quickly. But the option of being a people pleaser is really like not an option. Like if you're a people pleaser, yes man, in a sex work environment, like you are in so much danger. Like it's almost inevitable that something really horrific will happen to you. And it's just such a fucking horrible, horrible societal thing that women, we're just taught to just like be gentle, be kind, be unproblematic. That's not the right word. What's the word? Confrontational, sorry. And just like literally, for a lack of a better phrase, like sit back and take it. Yeah, just like, yeah, honestly, like it's a fucking disease. Yeah.
I am so glad you brought up sex work, because I was going to mention that next, because it was becoming a sex worker for me that really, I think, started my people pleasing healing journey. Because like you said, especially like, you know, when I entered the strip club, I was 22, so very early 20s. I'm in this environment where men think that their actions don't have consequences. And so I'm constantly being put into these positions where, you know, you're alone in a lap dance room with this guy, and he's going to ask you, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do this? And they're looking for the strippers that seem really easy to manipulate. That's why there's always that like thing where when you first become a baby stripper, other strippers will say, oh, you're going to make so much money if you tell guys you're a baby stripper, because they love baby strippers because they know you're not strong in your boundaries yet. And
fucking disgusting. Sorry, I just have to say that.
It is
fucking freaky and weird and predatorial. But anyway, continue.
Full predatory behavior. So being a stripper actually really helped me with my people pleasing healing, because what I was able to do as a stripper was, you know, I know every stripper is different, but for me, like, it helped to put on a persona at work. And so because I have a theatre acting background, I find it quite easy. It's almost like a form of glamour magic manifesting in a way. I find it very easy when I'm trying to become, like, evolve as a person. I play the character until it becomes natural. And I know that sounds fake, but I think it's also a very autistic thing. So when I was a stripper, I'm in stripper mode. My stripper name was Lydia. I said to myself when I was getting ready and putting my makeup on, I said, Lydia doesn't take shit. Lydia says no and doesn't apologize for it. So being in the strip club was actually a really good way for me to practice asserting those boundaries, and being able to do that in a character was really good. It's like role play. It's role play, and it over time started to become my natural response, to a point where me as a person, let's just say I don't want to say my government name, so let's just say my government name's Georgia. Me as Georgia comes out and is able to confidently say no. And I noticed it in all areas of my life where people, you know, oh, do you want to do this thing? And I'm just like quickly saying yes, because I don't want to let this person down. I want them to like me. I want them to see me as reliable and dependable, but I don't want to do the thing. And so it was just so, I think I was quite fortunate that I very quickly realized in the strip club, not having boundaries is going to, not that it's my fault, it's never your fault, it's the fucking predator's fault, but not having boundaries is going to get me harmed. I need to learn to say no. I need to get comfortable with saying no. And you can only do that by going through the discomfort and the repulsion you feel when saying no, because it really was like a full body, like, oh my God, I feel physically sick. And that's, I think, the thing I was going back to earlier, where you even said the word safety when you were talking about your relationship with men. I think a lot of people pleasers, we're just looking for safety, because a lot of people pleasers, it comes from our childhood. I think a lot of the people pleasers I know come from, you know, childhoods that weren't always safe. You've been conditioned to believe that, yeah, denying your needs is the best, it's the only way to survive. Safety is survival. And so from a young age, when you are realizing, like, if I advocate for my needs, that actually puts me in more danger, you very quickly form neurological pathways that say, don't advocate for your needs. And then over time, you start to feel this weird sense of false safety through always being agreeable. But one day you wake up and you realize, this is fucking dangerous. I'm so scared for what this is going to do to me. And I need to start getting out of this fake safety net that I formed for myself, make myself uncomfortable for a while, and then I will find true safety. I turn 30 next year, And I am really proud of the fact that I think I have a pretty good reputation of like, people know, don't, like, Vixen's not an agreeable person. If she has an opinion on something that she disagrees on you with, she will say it. And I love that. And I want to be known as that person that people look to and think, oh, she's not an agreeable person. Like, I don't want people to look at me as agreeable. I like being a problem. I like being viewed as stubborn because it protects me. It's a safety net. It's a safety net that my inner child didn't have, that I've now been able to give her. And I can confidently say, like, you know, I'm still getting better at it. Like, I'm still sometimes quite bad at accidentally like double booking myself and saying yes to all the things that I genuinely have an enthusiastic yes for, but I actually need to like prioritize, like, well, I can't say yes to everything. But no, I've healed a lot over the years, and I reckon, yeah, being a stripper really helped with that. My frontal lobe developing helped with that. And I have another story of when I like realized I was a people pleaser, but I want to pass back to Madeline and let you have some more words, and then I will say my little story because it's quite a funny story.
When you were saying that you think sex work was a big part of your like healing people pleasing journey, or maybe the start of it, it made me think like, I think I remember like the exact moment in the strip club. I don't know how deep I was. I think I might have been like maybe like 2 months in, or maybe even less. And like, God bless for me having this moment. But like, I think it's the exact moment that I realized how important boundaries were going to be, and that I needed to not drink alcohol too much while I was there. And I remember being at the first strip club that I worked at, they have this like stage kind of in the center of the room, and there's a third pole, but it's like up these little stairs on its own little platform, and it's kind of like risen, and like we would often sit up there, and it gave you this kind of bird's eye view of the club. And I remember sitting up there and looking around the room, and it was really busy, and I remember like having that drunk feeling of like my vision's a bit like doing things. Like I was a bit like, whoa, like I'm drunk. And then I remember in that moment being like, this is not the environment for that. This is not the environment for that, because you right now are so easy breezy, and that is not the way that you want to be behaving. Yeah, I remember just being like, you're so loosey goosey drunk right now that like you would be game for way more things than you would usually be game for. And that is not something that we want to be doing in this situation. Like, I need to be on my fucking game right now. I need to be on defense right now. I cannot be away with fairies because of how drunk I am. And like, I remember it so vividly. And like, it's like something that I picture whenever I'm talking to baby strippers and being like, don't be like a baby stripper that like gets absolutely maggot. Like, you will regret it. Like, don't do it. And like, I'm so glad I had that moment, because like I was actually really good with boundaries in the club, which like, given my track record outside of the club with men, is kind of surprising. Like, I think I was really able to be like, no, you won't touch me. I used to do a disclaimer, like before I would go into a lap dance, I would stand in front of them and be like, all right, so you can touch me here, you can touch me here, but you can't touch me in the no-no square. And, you know, I would, you know, explain that to them. And of course, being the fuckwits that they were, most of them would still try to breach those boundaries, but I was quite calmly able to be like, no, and to keep it kind of fun and sexy, but still be like, no, that's not happening. But yeah, like outside of the club with men who weren't customers, I just had no ability to like stand up for myself, or like say what I wanted, or like have it be like, I don't know what's the word. Like, yeah, I was trying to be easy breezy for them. And I think the difference is that I was trying to be loved by the men that I was dating, but I was trying to get paid by the guys that were in the club. So because I didn't like see them as romantic interests in the club, I was a bit better able to like, this just speaks to like my own like trauma and like issues at this time of my life. But like, because I think my people's pleasing was very much like rooted in looking for like romantic love, because I wasn't looking for that in the club, I was able to hold boundaries really well. Whereas like with the men outside of the club, I was not, if that makes sense.
Well, that's completely accurate. Like, it's that separation from these men that was why I was so able to like use that as like a playing ground for my role play of like, I don't actually give a fuck what these men think about me. I'm not craving the safety of them liking me. I just want their money. So like it made it so much easier for me to separate that little girl in me that's looking for validation. It's so funny because, you know, there's that idea that like S workers crave male validation. In that environment, I'm craving male money. So I'm not craving validation. But in the real world, under a patriarchal society that has taught women that their be all end all is to be the wife and mother to a man, we are subliminally being taught that like we need to look for their validation. And you combine that with like compulsive heterosexuality. I'm the same. Like, it took me a couple of years of dating men to sort of get to a point where I finally learned to advocate for myself. And it was actually through sex work that I did that, which is why I think that so many sex workers I know have higher standards when it comes to men. But that's a conversation for another episode. But no, I love everything you said. I completely agree. I think the strip club and role play is a really good environment. And I think a lot of S workers listening to this, especially women or people that have been socialized as women, will be really resonating with that. And probably I'd love to hear from other S workers whether they found that being an S worker helps them on their people pleasing journey, because it seems to have with you and me. So going back to what I was saying earlier about what helped me really confront my people pleasing, it was so helpful. It was meeting someone who I realized was a mirror. So a couple of years ago, I was forming a friendship with a person, and we would hang out and we would like talk about all these things we wanted to do, and we'd make all these plans, and we'd both be like, oh my God, yeah, that sounds so cool. We should absolutely do this. And I took it at face value because, you know, being on the spectrum, I take what people say at face value. I'm not looking for hidden meanings or messages and things. I just like, fuck me for being someone that trusts that what people say is what they really mean, but I'll touch on that soon. So I think we're making all of these plans, and then when the day comes round to actually go through with the plans, the person would ghost me, and it would really suck. And I'd be like, oh, like, you know, I wish they'd just told me that they were like not keen. And then I later found out from mutual friends of ours that they were complaining to them about how they felt that I was forcing them into doing things they didn't want to do, and they didn't feel like they could say no to me. And that really upset me for a number of reasons. Being an SA survivor, it can be really upsetting to hear that people like feel they can't say no to you. I feel like I am someone that, because I'm a recovering people pleaser myself, I constantly say to people like, hey, all good if not, or you're welcome to say no. And so finding out that this person was telling friends of ours that they felt pressure to do things that, like, a lot of these plans we would make weren't even my idea. They would be their idea. They'd be the one being like, oh my God, let's do this. I'd be like, oh my God, yes. And then I'd find out later that, yeah, that they're saying they felt pressure to do all these things from me. And it deeply hurt my feelings. And it made me feel really betrayed, and really like I was building a dynamic with someone off. It was false. It was fake. It wasn't real. It was. And that's sort of the lesson I learned in that moment, because as I was getting really upset and frustrated by this realization, I paused and went, oh my gosh, wait a minute. I have done this to people. I have totally been this person that someone asks me to do something, I'll say yes. I don't actually want to, but it's just my people pleasing, not being able to say no. And then I go around secretly resenting the person and being like, oh my God, like they're making me do all these things. No, they weren't. They weren't. I just didn't say no. I said yes. I told them I was excited. I said, oh my gosh, that sounds great. And then I have the audacity to be resentful towards the person. And I realized in that moment, oh my gosh, it wasn't the people I was resentful towards. It was myself. I betrayed my own boundaries. And instead of sitting with that discomfort, I'm just going to project it onto the other people. And so through that experience with the person and realizing that I wasn't able to build an authentic friendship with this person because I learned that they didn't know how to say no to me, or that they didn't feel safe saying no to me, I stopped being close with this person. I pulled away from them because I felt, you know, and in their defense, I never brought it up with them. I never confronted them about it. But I just sort of was like, it was so early on in the friendship that I felt like, I'm not really bothered if this doesn't carry on. So I pulled away. But if that had been, say, a friend that I had known for years, I definitely would have sat them down and said, hey, I found out you've been saying these things about me. I'm quite hurt. Can we talk about it? But it was so early on that I thought, I'm just going to stop trying to, build a dynamic with this person. But yeah, like that experience was a very confronting moment for me. It really held a mirror to me and forced me to experience the treatment that I had bestowed on others in my past. And through that, now again, if you are someone that struggles with like thoughts of shame and feeling shameful about yourself makes you spiral, I would maybe skip through the next minute of what I'm about to say. But that experience really made me sit with the tough pill to swallow that when you are a people pleaser in your adult life, you in a way, you are manipulating the situation to avoid the inevitable conflict that's just going to end up being worse by not saying no. And so that helped me a lot, realizing that a lot of my people pleasing came from being manipulated so much as a child into saying yes to everything. But through not healing that, I myself started to become indirectly a manipulator. And again, I want to make it very clear. I'm not trying to say that people pleasers are sinister, malicious manipulators, but that is unfortunately a really tough pill to swallow. As you get older and become an adult, we should be able to trust that when you're building a relationship with someone, what they say is what they mean. And like I said, especially when you're on the spectrum, and a lot of us take what people say at face value, and it's a very neurotypical thing of like lying about how you really feel about the situation and then resenting the person for not picking up on your social cues that you were lying or that you weren't actually keen. And then you go around and saying, oh my God, like Vixen's forcing me to do all these things I don't want to do. And I have been that person to tell people I'm okay with doing something that I'm actually not. And then I would resent them. But really it was myself that I was frustrated at. And that helped me a lot. So again, not saying that people pleasers are insidious manipulators, but it is unfortunately it was something that I realized within myself that helped me a lot. I don't want to be a person that I want to be a person that people know that when my yes, it's an enthusiastic, authentic yes. It's not me trying to avoid a conflict that, like I said, it's going to be worse if you don't just advocate for yourself from the start. And so that led me on my journey of in order to build meaningful, safe relationships with people that were safety again, the safety that I was looking for in childhood, the only way to do that is to give a very enthusiastic yes and then a no when I mean it. And that's something that, like I said earlier, I'm at a point in my life where I know that the people around me know that if I say yes to something, it's because I actually want to do it. But if I say no, like, it's actually quite a funny thing where over the years, it's like exposure therapy, like I said, in the strip club, like saying no to men who have quite a visceral reaction to being rejected. It actually helped me because in the real world, most people really aren't that bothered when you say no. I think a lot of us people pleasers, because it stems from our childhood trauma, we over exaggerate in our heads how people are going to react to us saying no. We start to spiral into thinking, I'm going to say no and they're going to get mad at me. And a paranoia I always had was that this person's going to get mad at me and is going to go around and turn everyone else against me. Like that's such a paranoia that I think a lot of people pleasers have of like, oh my gosh, everyone's going to hate me. And this is I need to just say yes, 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 yes. But then through saying yes all the time, like this experience with this friend that I was trying to build a friendship with, this person I was trying to build a friendship with, through them trying to say yes to me so much, they ended up making me not like them as a person because I would rather they just said, no, I don't actually feel like doing that. it's really good to say no to people and basing their reaction to your no as an indicator of whether they are someone you actually want to be friends with or not. That's another lesson I've learned as I've gotten older and have started practicing saying no to people. Most of the time, people are going to be like, cool, no worries. But if someone has a really intense reaction to you saying no, that's a really big red flag that should tell you, and I think this just comes with age, that tells you, this is not someone I want in my life. Why would I want to be in community or friends with someone who doesn't let me say no? And again, like I said, I think that's just something that comes with age. You always say that as you get older, you give less fucks about what people think about you. I cannot emphasize enough how fucking accurate that is. I turn 30 next year, and I know that, like, god damn, it's just going to get even more apparent as I get older. They're like, who the fuck cares what people think about me? But people that have a huge, intense reaction to you saying no, I'm at an age now where I'm like, oh, fuck you. Like, I don't want you in my life. I don't want you around me. And I've experienced that in recent years where I've advocated for myself with certain people and they've villainized me for it. And I'm like, cool, well, that actually says more about you than it does me. So I'm quite content with just not being around you because you're uncomfortable by me saying no. And that actually has more to do with you than it does me. So there's that little story. Like I said, I'm not trying to say that people pleasers are manipulative. That doesn't help us to heal. But realizing that, how do I word this? Like I said, this experience I had with this person, it made me not like them as a person. And it's that ironic thing where I was journaling at the start that my people pleasing came from this desire of being liked by everyone, but I was actually making myself kind of an unlikable person. And that's just helped me a lot. So I hope that story maybe will help others put into perspective of like being on the receiving end of a people pleaser and how much it actually really deeply hurt my feelings and kind of fucked with me a little because it made me think like, oh my God, am I a predator? Like, am I making people feel like they can't say no? No, I don't think that's right. I feel like I'm very clear to people it's okay to say no. That's on them. It's not on me. Now as I approach my 30s, it might sound cruel, but I do struggle to be around really chronic people pleasers because, or at least put it like this, I struggle to maintain friendships with and gain authentic connections with chronic people pleasers because I don't trust that they have my back. I feel like in a situation, if someone was talking shit about me, they would just go along with it. They wouldn't stick up for me. Whereas I'm a Leo. If you talk shit about a friend to me, I'm going to say, excuse me, that's my fucking friend. Don't fucking say that. But people pleasers who are conflict avoidant, they won't stick up for you. They will either sit there and nod and agree, or in the worst cases, through trying to gain that likability and validation, they'll talk shit about you too. And I've had those friendships, and it fucking sucks. Have I been that friend? Okay, I've been the silent friend who doesn't say anything. I haven't been the one that adds shit, but that's still bad. I've been the silent friend who won't stick up for my friend.
I've been like this person has just started talking shit about my friend, and I don't know what the fuck to say to you because I don't think you realize that I love this person. And so I'm just going to awkwardly sit here until you realize that I love this person. And then I'm going to, like, once I've gotten over my awkwardness, probably correct you in some way. But I've never been the, like, talk shit about my friend to make friends. If that
Me
makes sense.
too. No, me too.
I
I
get
think,
awkward. I have,
yeah.
I've, in the past. Now I'm kind of a cunt. But, like, yeah, in the past I'm a bit like, oh, this is fucking weird because you are obviously unaware that that's my buddy.
Yes, I think that's more what I was trying to get at. I've definitely never been the one that will talk shit about the friends, but I definitely think I can recall situations in my life where someone is saying an opinion about a person and I don't pipe up and disagree with them. Whereas as I became an adult, I quickly moved away from it because I was like, I'm not being a good friend right now. Like, this is not cool behavior. And so, yeah, I just think when you meet someone that reminds you of the parts of yourself that you don't aren't particularly fond of, that's an invitation for shadow work. Like when you're being confronted with someone, they drive you crazy, and then you realize, oh my God, they drive me crazy because they remind me of the parts of myself that I don't particularly like. It can actually be very liberating, and it's so sometimes really nice to have that mirror held up to you, because otherwise it's the only way that you really become conscious of your actions. And then that's something that we gain with age and wisdom. And like, but just on the topic of age and wisdom, I'm so fucking excited to turn 30 next year. I'm falling so in love with myself, and I'm loving the woman I'm becoming. And right. And that takes me on to my next kōrero, which I want to hear your thoughts on too. I want to talk about how activism has helped me with my people pleasing. If you look at people pleasing as being conflict avoidant, activism is conflict. And through being an activist,
what can I even add?
I had to become very comfortable with conflict.
Activism is conflict.
Madeline, what are your thoughts on the phrase
I didn't
activism
know that
is conflict?
when I started advocating online. Mine started from like a pure just like anger and frustration toward what I was seeing happening. And it sort of grew over time into when I learned and I, informed myself, and it became like real advocacy and activism in a sense. Like there were a few kind of like, I guess one might call them canon events where I was just so fucking like emotionally in my nervous system, in my body, just fired the fuck up, like fight or flight, because of conflict that I was having around these conversations. And I had to learn real fast that that is what this is. That is a huge part of this. You have to be able to navigate conflict. And I think that sometimes, like, I was having this conversation with a friend today, and I think that it's really important to have like a really wide variety of approaches and ways to get a message across that can kind of like resonate with all different kinds of people, with all different approaches and feelings around life and whatnot. But I do think that conflict avoidance and trying to advocate in the softest possible, most gentle way, while it's needed in some spaces and it has a lot of value, I think that we just need to like check in and remember that sometimes we actually need to have a little bit of a fight. And I know that's freaky and scary to people, but like the whole thing of activism and advocacy is that we're fighting for better. We're fighting for a change, right? And so you can't just cancel the fighting part. It's really hard to love your oppressor into treating you right. And I just like, I do notice that gets really lost, and people are really, really, and this is like on the oppressing side and the oppressed side is the conflict avoidance. It's, and like Vixen was saying earlier, like we're a product of our trauma, we're a product of our childhood, the way that we like receive things is down to our lived experience. And so it's not a malicious thing necessarily, but I do think that we need to be able to fight. We need to be able to fight, and we need to be able to disagree, and we need to be able to say things in a way that like emotes like how frustrating some of this shit can be. Like I think specifically in mine, Vixen's case, and I mean, I guess this will be relatable to other people who advocate for like marginalized communities. The slights that we experience and like the frustration and the horrors that we have to experience are so emotionally upsetting, traumatizing, frustrating that if you take all of the emotion and the anger and the rage and the hurt out of conveying that to the people who are the oppressors, they just don't fucking care. Like when you water stuff down to make it as nice to people as possible, you're not actually like, you're kind of losing that idea of like, this shit is fucked and it sucks. And we need people to like start listening to us and like start trying to change their behavior and start advocating with us because this shit sucks. And if we just, sugarcoat it all, it's like you lose that like real human feeling of like, this is shit for these people. Can we do better?
Yeah, especially with the sugarcoating, because it gets to a point where it's like, whose feelings are we even prioritizing right now? Like,
Period.
and I think one thing I want to add to that is I think here in Aotearoa, actually I want to say New Zealand because it's a New Zealand thing. It's a colonized thing. New Zealand has a huge culture of like conflict avoidance and people pleasing because we've been colonized by Britain, and British culture is very fake fucking nice and very like just, don't talk about the bad, just like, oh God, sorry if you're listening to this and you're British, but like British culture, just, I can't stand it. It drives me nuts. It's probably the tangata whenua in me, but like, I'm friends with a lot of migrants. I've brought up the Latin Queers many a times on this podcast. I'm in community with. One of my closest friends is one of the founders of Latin Queers. You learn a lot about your own country's culture by people that move here. And her and all of my friends, whether they're from Mexico or from the US, say that New Zealand has a really bad problem with like fake niceness and conflict avoidance, to a point where my friend says that she's in the fucking supermarket and like people won't say excuse me when like someone's in their way, or like people just hover around you waiting for you to move. They won't just be like, hey, excuse me, coming through, because everyone's just so off in their own world and no one wants to be seen as being rude, and it's so neurotypical and it's so colonial and it's so white supremacist of like just always being so agreeable and don't make conflict and blah blah fucking blah. And so I think through that, New Zealand has really fostered a culture of just fake fucking niceness, to a point where we're so conflict adverse. This applies to me too. Like I'm pretty good with conflict, but I'm not perfect at it. It's something that I'm still learning and navigating as I get older and being a woman in this world and all of that. But I just think it's so interesting especially learning from the Latin queers about what activism looks like in Latin America versus here. It's so different. They're like, you guys like show up to these cute little peaceful protests and then you're like, hi, please don't hurt us. Okay, bye. And it's just like, at what point are we going to have to sit with the realization that like, yeah, asking your oppressors nicely. Do you know what it actually reminds me of? It reminds me of when you were in primary school and someone was bullying you and the teachers would say, just say to your bullies, stop it, I don't like it. They know. They know we don't like it. Has anyone ever said to a bully, hey, stop it, I don't like it? And has that bully ever turned around and gone, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I was bullying you because I thought you were having fun. I am so sorry. Let me stop. I thought you were enjoying this. No, they're getting off on the fact that you're miserable and that you're suffering. So do our oppressors. They want to keep us oppressed. They know we're oppressed. They don't fucking care. So asking, hey, you guys are like hurting me, stop it, I don't like it, that's not going to work. And I agree with you. I think there is room for like, I think when it comes to interpersonal, like engaging with just like the people within your own community, like there is space for like having these gentle kōreros when someone comes at you and they're unlearning things and they sit you down, they say, hey, like, I have a question about this thing. Sorry if this question is ignorant, but I'm learning. I think it's okay to meet them with a level of like, hey, let's approach this softly. You're here to learn. I don't want to like bombard you and attack you. But I do agree with Madeline that there is, when you look at the history of a lot of really, really well-known activists and social change and political movement, and revolution, it's happened because people have said enough is a fucking enough. I can't function. I'm going to die. How, like, fucking stop it. We need to rally together. And so going back to what I was saying about like people pleasing and activism and how it's very similar with you. Back in my like Vixen Temple blog days on my Instagram before it was deplatformed and I would post opinions, I remember very early on I used to respond to every single message I got, and I would read every single comment and just constantly trying to appease people because I was scared of what being disliked would mean for me. I've like, again, like I said, from a very young age, I adapted this mindset that being unliked was very dangerous. And so when I was becoming a public figure, I thought I need to be likable. But then I realized as I started leaning more into activism, that being likable kind of contradicts the points of activism because, like we've said, activism is conflict. It's sticking your head up from the herd and saying, no, I don't like the direction we're going. Can we try it a different way? And that's going to piss people off in a world full of, I'm sorry to say it, but in a world full of sheep, in a world full of zombies that just go with the flow and don't critically ask why they're doing something. It takes very brave, vulnerable people like myself and Madeline and so many other activists in this country and all over the world to step up and go, no, this is actually fundamentally wrong. And so for me, when I was becoming more of an activist, that got me really comfortable to a point that now I can say that, like, I don't want to be liked by everyone because I don't like everyone, because I disagree with a lot of how they view the world and how they think I should live. I don't like everyone, so why would I want everyone to like me? I firmly believe a friend to everyone is a friend to no one, and my loyalty lies with my values. And if someone comes along with me and says, I don't agree with your values, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, sorry, you're right. I'm going to go, well, why? And if they say why and I disagree, I'm going to stand on that because I'm standing on business.
I think that with the people pleasing and the advocacy thing, I think that as an advocate, something that you need, and an activist, I have a bit of a complex around the two words and like what I feel more like I resonate with. I think I personally resonate a bit more with advocate, but that's why I always say both, and then it's always a bit of a mess because I will like combine the words and it turns into this weird mesh of words. But anyway, I think that if you want to be an advocate and you want to do this work, something that you have to have done and be still actively consciously doing is so much self-work, to be so incredibly deeply aware of the way that you behave and what informs the way that you behave. You, as an advocate, need to be able to like identify your own behavior patterns. And I think that like people pleasing and activism, they just they can't mix, because firstly you're going to fuck your mental health. Case in fucking point, me I fucked my mental health by wanting everyone to like me and having opinions that were, to a lot of people in my community, abrasive. And I had to learn very quickly, if I actually truly believe in my opinion and I truly want to push my opinion, and I think it is like, well, it is, I don't think it is, it's fucking fact, and it's a shit ton of research. I actually have to be prepared for people not to fucking like me, and I need to be aware of when that little voice in my head is like, oh my God, like make that sound a bit nicer so that people don't like fight you. Like, I need to be aware of that and I need to confront that. And I also think, like, if we dig into this really deep, if we dig even further into people pleasing, especially those people who police other people, and want other people to also make things more people pleasing, there's a little level of misogyny in there. If you are a chronic people pleaser and you want other people to be more palatable in the way that they deliver things, especially in this realm of advocacy, you need to think about why that is that you feel the need to make another person, especially another femme presenting person, why are you needing them to be more palatable to other people? And like I said, if we dig real deep into this, I think it's a little bit of internalized misogyny, because we as women are conditioned to think that we need to be palatable and we need to be kind and we need to be nice and we need to be quiet and we need to be easygoing. And you just need to check that real quick, pretty please, because like I find it so especially fascinating when it happens to me and Vixen, because like a lot of people think that me and Vixen are really, really aggressive, and really abrasive and really hostile. And I think that if you like step out of your own discomfort for a second, you'll realize that neither of us are very aggressive, um, and neither of us are very hostile. We're loud. We are like in a volume way. We are loud women. We speak loudly. We swear a lot, uh, and we just stick by what we think, and we just say what we think, and we say things quite just directly. And let's also check ourselves on what we think the word directly means. Like, direct, being a very direct person is so often used as a way to be like, oh, this person is like hostile, aggressive. Let us be so fucking honest with ourselves. Being direct just means like using less words to make your point. Less words, less fluff. Just say what you mean and say it. And because we're so conflict avoidant, when people do that, it's like so freaky for some people. It's so like, oh my God, whoa, so direct. And like, yeah, I wish some people could just like, step outside of their conflict avoidance and like discomfort around women having opinions and, you know, being told maybe that something that they're doing isn't super awesome, and just be like, oh, this isn't actually super aggressive. This is actually a really, really fair delivery, and a really just like straightforward delivery. And I'm actually having discomfort to that. And I actually need to just like sit back and be like, why do I have discomfort for that? Having discomfort for something like that doesn't make you a bad person. You just need to sit back and go, okay, I'm having some discomfort. Why am I having discomfort? And let's hypothesize. Am I having discomfort because I myself don't feel comfortable being that direct? Because I'm conditioned to be like the quiet and like palatable woman or person? Or, you know, am I profiting from actually not doing what this person wants me to do, and I don't want my reality to shift? And like just think about it. Just dig a little deeper into why you feel so resistant to people who are just willing to say it how it is and go against the status quo.
I'm really glad you brought up internalized misogyny, because I also think, like I was touching on earlier here in New Zealand, it's also a lot of white supremacy. I thought about this when you were touching on how you know, with the internalized misogyny of women, that they get uncomfortable around other women who, like you and me, for example, who are a bit more in need for a better word, abrasive and like firm in our convictions. There's been situations where I've been talking about my opinions on something. I've left the room and someone's told me that after I've left the room, someone in the room was like, oh, sorry about Vixen. You know what she's like. Like like people are so embarrassed. They think they're embarrassed for me, but they're actually embarrassed for themselves. They're projecting because they're uncomfortable seeing a woman be so loud and firm in her opinions. They think they're experiencing secondhand embarrassment, but actually they're not. I'm not embarrassed in that situation. They're feeling fuckama, and they're going to project that back onto me. So like because they still care about what people in the room think about them. And I can feel in situations, because I'm so attuned to energy, because I'm so fucking autistic, I can feel
I feel ya.
I can feel in situations when I am like being very firm in a point and having like a really I love it. What's the word I'm looking for? I love a discussion. I love a kōrero. I love a debate. That's the word. I'm having like a really intense, passionate debate with someone, and me and them are quite happy in our debate, but people around us, I can feel them getting uncomfortable and awkward and trying to like tone police the energy. And me and the person in the discussion are like, it's fine. Like we're just having a debate, but people are so conflict avoidant that they see two people engaging in a very intellectual debate, and then they start feeling really embarrassed. And that's what I was going to say earlier, is like, it's such a white supremacist thing. I see a lot of white Pākehā women doing this to Māori and Polynesian women a lot. When Māori or Polynesian women are so firm in their values and their beliefs, which I think is something that is a very integral part of being for me at least, tangata whenua is just being so firm in my values and wearing it like it's in my mana, it's a part of my waiora, and I carry it with me through essence everywhere I go. I think white women get really uncomfortable by that because whiteness has taught them that they're likable by being subordinate, and they see specifically Māori women that have brown skin, whereas I'm a fucking pale Māori woman and I still experience this. So I feel like it would be even worse if people clocked me by looking at me as tangata whenua. I can feel Pākehā white women around me trying to police me when I am being really firm in my words, and that it just deeply upsets me. And I don't even hate the person for it. I hate the systems that's taught them to be like that. And I actually feel a lot of compassion for them, and I wish I could help them through that, but it's not for me. That's their own journey to go on. But would you agree with that, Madeline, that like white Pākehā women, like white women in general, we've talked about in the respectability politics episode, like tone police the fuck out of women of colour. And I, just being tangata whenua myself, I see it a lot with white women in Aotearoa who are still subconsciously trying to colonize the Māori woman around them by being like, oh my gosh, like, do you want to say it nicely because that's how I would do it? And it's like, okay, Diva, if that's how you would do it, cool. But I'm not you. I'm not Pākehā. I don't subscribe to your Pākehā ways of doing things. I'm fucking tangata whenua. I'm not going to sit here and tone police myself because you're uncomfortable, because you've been raised in a white supremacist world and you're not unlearning that the way that I am. What are your thoughts on that, Madeline?
Hugely. Like, the white feminism of it all is like disgusting and rampant. And like, we're going to do a whole episode on this. Spoiler, we're going to have a fucking awesome person on the podcast. But like, oh man, like, New Zealand is tiny. There is, what is there, 5 million of us? There's not many of us. And so like our specific communities aren't super big. And so it is pretty easy to know like who is who, and and like it is predominantly Pākehā women in these spaces. And in the pole studios that I work at, it's predominantly Pākehā women, in both the instructor team, the management teams, and the students. Like, it's just, there are a lot of Pākehā women. And New Zealand, and I'm sure like this will resonate for people from other countries as well, but like, if I think about like our middle upper class, like white women in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, I'm just like, this like, there's this like, just like insufferable need to be like posh. They are so freaked out and judgmental by anyone who is in their, and this is another awesome word, in their opinion, like uncouth. And do you know how easy it is for these women to think that you are uncouth? Like, you could be very slightly loud and people will be like confronted by your presence. And I mean, 100% like I'm the same as Vixen. I am tangata whenua, but I am white presenting, so I don't face the same difficulties that people who have brown skin would. But I look at the white women around me, and this is not all of them, and I'm not to be that bitch that says not all men, but I know a lot of Pākehā women who are incredible and really doing the work. But it's always these people with this level of privilege that are trying to tell us that we need to be more palatable, or that we need to tone it down. I remember, and this goes for like all industries, I remember when I was a beauty therapist and I had just started doing sex work, and I was like, it must be the autism in me, but like I was fucking loud and proud about having a sugar baby, having a sugar daddy. Like, I was very pleased with myself, and I was telling people it was probably a little bit pick me energy at the time, and like I have no shame in saying that, because like I think we all have to unlearn that a little bit. But I was telling people that I had a sugar daddy, and I was telling my clients that I was tight with, because when you're a beauty therapist and you are like close enough to someone's face to kiss them, you end up talking and getting quite tight with them if you see them every 3 weeks. And so a lot of my clients were like close mates of mine, and they had become that over time. And I've had the same personality that I have now, and I've had it my whole life. I'm loud, and I'm pretty shameless, and I like to make jokes. And so, you know, I was telling them, I was like, I have a fucking sugar daddy, girls, yes. And like, we were talking about it, and I was dressing up more, and I was putting on more makeup, and I was more confident, and I was just fucking living my fucking life, thriving. And my manager at the time pulled me, and this is an English woman, and like, no hate to her, no shade to her, because she's been brought up in this like culture of this is the way that you survive. It is still your responsibility and her responsibility to unlearn that. But she pulled me into the office, and literally her words were tone it down. Like, you're really a lot right now. You're really like loud, like you're wearing heels to work, like, you know, you need to bring it down a notch. Like, it's just really intense, and like, you know, it's too much. And like, I remember being so shocked because like I was having the time of my life, and I was really like feeling like my clients were loving me because I was so personable, and I was my client retention was crazy because I was just like this little ball of funny happiness and light and joy that could do beauty therapy really well. And my manager was like, it's too much, stop it. And I fucking cried my way home because I was like, I'm having the best time. Like, I'm really happy right now. And this person has been like, nah, you're too much. You're way too much. And like, that is like just a perfect example of it. It's like, oh man, you know, like, oh, that like bracket. I think, I was talking to someone else about beauty therapy the other day, but beauty therapy is so fucking bad for it. Like, if you want to experience white feminism and like toxic work culture and like extreme cattiness and misogyny, go and work in a beauty salon. Like, you know, the way that shit is upheld in those spaces is insane. But yeah, like, I couldn't agree more. Like, yeah, I just wish that like, just let people fucking feel things and like express things.
I'm really glad you, like, God, if I had a fucking dollar for every time someone has said to me, you need to tone it down, you're too much, you're too intense, like, especially fucking women saying that to me. And it's like, I'm not too much, maybe you're not enough. Like, and I think, again, it goes back to that, like, cultural separation between being Māori and Pākehā, especially white Pākehā. Māori we're very expressive people. We're storytellers. Our whole language is oral. We are communicative, expressive people. When I was at my Pākehā Nana's funeral, I remember when we put her into the hearse, and they drove off, and I collapsed on the floor wailing, because that's how Māori wahine mourn. We wail, we cry, we're calling upon our ancestors. It's a whole ritual. And someone came running up to me, forced me on my feet, and went, no, it's okay, it's over, we don't need to do it, no, it's all over now, it's fine. And I got so fucking mad, and that's when I was like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm on the Pākehā side of my whānau, because they are so offended by someone. I'm at a fucking funeral. My nana just died. She was like my second mum growing up. And also, her star sign was a Cancer. She would have wanted me collapsing on the floor crying. Are you kidding me? Like, and I noticed that cultural difference between, like you said, let people express themselves. Māori culture is very big on expression. And through colonization, we have been taught to not express ourselves, because fucking British people don't. They're so fucking rigid and stoic. I fucking can't stand it. And so again, it's like, when people feel uncomfortable by, especially women of color, expressing themselves, white women clutch their pearls, and they're like, oh my God, like, I'm uncomfortable, so I'm going to assume that everyone else in the room is uncomfortable, and for some reason I've positioned myself as this person that needs to be like the person that gets rid of the discomfort. And it's just like, Diva, you might have been the only one in the room that was uncomfortable, and now you've made everyone uncomfortable by being so uncomfortable. Like, it's just, no, I think being an expressive person, I'm a Leo sun, I'm tangata whenua, I am a theatre kid. I've always been an expressive person, and my mother always nurtured that. But then when I go out in the real world and I'm treated as if like the amount of fucking people that have said to me, just tone it down, like you're embarrassing me. No, I'm not. You are embarrassed. I am not embarrassing you. There is a difference. And that expressive emotion has served me well as an activist. When I gave that speech at Parliament, on Parliament grounds, in my fucking stripper lingerie, about the time I was essayed and how the justice system failed me, people were crying because I was putting so much emotion into it. I was being so authentically vulnerable. People were fucking crying, and they came up to me after and they said, holy crap, you have just like rewired my like brain chemistry. Like I am so on the side of strippers now. I will fight with you. That's how you get people on your side. I'm so sick of the people-pleasing white supremacist culture telling people to tone it down and stop being so expressive. Like, that's your shit, babe. You're the people pleaser. Go work on that. I'm at a point in my life, I really don't have fucking time for it. Unless you're actively conscious of it and working on it as I am, I like, that's your shit. Don't fucking bring it to me. Don't bring your fuckama around expression to me. That's on you, babe. I'm gonna express my emotions, and if that makes you uncomfortable, just fucking unfollow me or just fucking leave me alone. Don't try to bring me down to your level because you're so intimidated by a loud bitch.
I also think that, like, if we are, surrounding advocacy, I have 2 points that I want to make here, but the first one, I I do feel that, like, if we are seeing a call to better behavior, so someone's asking for something to change for the better,
Mm-hmm.
um, if our first thought for that is how can we potentially make this more palatable and nicer for the people who we're asking to be better, instead of, wow, if those people read this and can't do better than their cunts, I'm sorry, what? Like, when did we start, like, what's the word? Justifying people continuing to act like shit because they felt confronted by being asked not to act like shit. Like, when did we start justifying that? I just think, like, if your first thought is like, how can we make this nicer for everyone else who are the people who are either causing the issues or other ignorant people, then what, like you said this earlier, who the fuck are we serving? Who the fuck are we serving? And then my second point is kind of a like side thing, but I just want to say it. I just want to like um agree with you around the way that Māori culture and funerals, tangis specifically, are just like so expressive and like I'm not sure exactly how to say this sentence, but like if you have the opportunity to be in a space, and you'd best be fucking respectful in these spaces, but if you have the opportunity to see Māori culture in that way, in an expressive way, like it is one of the most gorgeous and beautiful things, and this is something that I see online a lot, and I think that people who maybe don't have a lot of understanding of Māori culture will understand, but that's why you will cry when you see a haka, because there is so much mana and expression and feeling that is like woven into Māori culture, that you just like, it just invokes that in you, and it is the most gorgeous thing. And I remember, trigger warning to anyone who feels any way about suicide, but I remember when one of my best friends took her own life a couple of years ago. It's coming up 3 years this weekend, but she was Māori, and so we had 2 funerals. We had a Pākehā funeral and we had a tangi, and like they were in the space of like 4 days, so like really really close together. And a part of Māori culture and tangis is that it's not a 1 day thing, like it's ongoing. And so we had like an entire week of tangi for her, followed by the Pākehā funeral that was like on a Sunday, which is just like a few hours long. And me and the four of us that were really close to her at the Pakeha funeral, we were sitting at the front of the, like we were in the first pew, and we were all just fucked. Like we were all just sitting there just fucking freaking out. And I'm kind of laughing right now purely just from like dark humor and like a coping mechanism, but like we were just fucked. Like I can't even begin to explain like what a fucking mess we were that entire week. We had to pull our shit together because we had to do a lot of things in regard to like that situation. Like there's a lot to sort out, but we were we were expressing. If there was one thing we were doing, it was expressing. And so was everyone else at the tangi. The tangi was just like the most healing and beautiful thing. And she lay in wake in the front room of their house, and everyone would come in and visit and, you know, sit with her. And we would just sit with her, and we would all just be it was just a complete like room of like despair and like crying and wailing and speaking and, you know, and all that. And then obviously at the Pakeha funeral, you know, we're all sort of, and this is like not against Pakeha funerals. Like I'm not trying to like say that they're bad, but it's just the difference of kind of the way that they're conditioned to sort of deal with this stuff. I say I'm also Pakeha as well. So majority of funerals that I've been to are Pakeha, but you dress up and you sit there and you listen to people doing speeches, and, you know, the speeches are all trying to be very, you know, well spoken. And honestly, like, it was just such a stark difference in the way that the expression, like, presented, I guess. And, like, I'm not sure really what my point is here, but, like, I guess it feeds into the entire thing of, like, just being unapologetically expressive of what you think. And, you know, in this instance, I'm talking about grief, but it goes for other things. And I think that, like, we could all just fucking gain so much and feel so much better, and our mental health just be all in all just more positive if we could kind of relearn a little bit around conflict and like big feelings avoidance. And yeah, again, like a lot of this conversation has been about advocacy, but it infiltrates every part of your life. People pleasing and just constantly working toward other people around you being as comfortable with you as possible is so fucking unpleasant. And maybe you might not notice how unpleasant it is because maybe it's all you've ever known, because it's the way, especially women, it's the way that we're conditioned to behave. And yeah, that's all I had to say there.
It is, I agree, like experiencing Māori culture is a privilege if you are not Māori yourself, and it really is. I'm so grateful at Māori. I'm so proud to be Māori. I love that aspect of my whakapapa and how it is manifested in me as a person. And I just, going back to the people pleasing conversation, I think a lot of, well, we know a lot of people pleasing comes from childhood trauma. And then I also think we live in a culture that reinforces it. And like I said, like you really start to believe that you're safe in that people pleasing mindset. And the culture we have been brought up in, especially here in New Zealand, does reward that and reinforces that to you. And the actual discomfort, the nauseating discomfort that I had to navigate through when I was learning to actually just advocate for myself, because I've always been very good at advocating for others. Learning to advocate for myself was a whole other ballpark, but it really, I think, coincides with my decolonizing journey. It coincides with my unlearning patriarchal conditioning journey. And it really is a huge part of my burn the patriarchy kaupapa of just, we're not going to liberate ourselves if we are so always prioritizing the comfort of people that see us as agreeable pawns. And it's a very confronting pill to swallow. And calling back to Māori culture, people who are familiar with the story of Hine Titama, the Dawn Maiden, and how she found out that her husband, Tane Mahuta, the atua of the forest, was also her father. And the confronting truth that was for her to swallow, but through that she descended to Po, she descended to the underworld, and she became Hine Nui Te Po. And she would not have become one of the most powerful atua in Māori mythology had she not found out that truth. And I see that story as being quite a good analogy for like unlearning people pleasing, that confronting truth I had to swallow when I realized that, oh my gosh, me being a people pleaser is making me unlikable and it's making me unsafe. It was confronting, but it set me free, and it set me on the path of becoming my own Hine Nui Te Po, someone who embodies mana motuake, someone who embodies I choose my own path and I go my way, and I am here to, be the best version of myself. And sometimes that is going to mean causing discomfort with others, but I don't fucking care anymore, because me prioritizing others' comfort, like I wasn't being able to reach my full potential as Hene Titama wasn't when she didn't know about her lineage. But knowing that truth set her free. And I hope that listening to this podcast and maybe listening to different ways that Madeline and I have approached our people pleasing has served others to sort of sit with that confronting truth of like, again, I'm sorry to say it if you're someone that struggles with whakama and shame, but people pleasers are very unlikable people. I say that as one myself. I say that as someone who has met and interacted with a lot of people pleasers and been like, oh my God, I can't stand you. It's a confronting pill to swallow, but it's helped the fuck out of me.
It also just makes for better mental health. Trust me. Trust me. Since I accepted the fact that my advocacy was going to make a lot of people really dislike me, or want to create images of me in their head that were negative, whilst I still get sad about it sometimes, and I have to work constantly to keep reminding myself that that's a part of this, and that's my people pleaser little devil on my shoulder talking, it's gotten so much easier to navigate all of this stuff. I think we both, me and Vixen, have so much empathy and like understanding for people pleasing, because like we've said so many times, we are and have been those people. It's like a built-in thing for a lot of women. It is. It's just, people who have been raised as women. It's just the way that this world just pushes us to be constantly, and like, yeah. So if this feels like it is you, and it feels like these are things that you do and that you struggle with, this is not a call out. This is not a you're a shit person for doing that. That is not what this is. This is us just encouraging you to like think about that a little more, and maybe learn about it a bit more and try to combat it, and just notice it in yourself and ask yourself, like, is me and this people pleasing behavior, is this serving what I want it to serve? Is this actually serving what I believe in? Or am I actually doing a disservice here? And I think that like that can be a really hard thing to do, because there are layers and layers to dig through, and sometimes the first few layers aren't enough and you have to dig a little deeper. But like, we encourage you to do that because it's liberating. It's liberating. But yeah.
I agree. To close off for the day, I'll say a quote that has really helped me with my people pleasing recovery. It is trust when I say this, trust when I say this. It is so much better to be hated for who you are than loved for who you're not. As Madeline said, it's good for your mental health. I think it will extend your life expectancy. I have a lot of chronic health problems I recognize now are a result of me being such a people pleaser. I have chronic health conditions that I will live with for the rest of my life because of it. But I am now, as I approach my 30s, very comfortable and becoming very secure within who I am as a person and what my values are. And if I meet people that don't align with those values, like I said earlier, I don't like everyone, so why do I need everyone to like me? I don't want to be liked by fucking fascists. Like,
Period.
you know, so I would genuinely rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not, because through being your authentic self, you have to go through a period of isolation and loneliness, but you do find your people. I am finding mine, especially this past year. I have made so many new friends and so many more connections, and people who they are will be listening to this. They'll know who they are, and I love you guys so much. And I know that that is from being authentically myself. I now have genuine friends that I know will speak up to me when I'm doing something wrong, and they will confront me, and they will sit me down, and they will be real with me. They won't bitch about me behind my back because they're too fucking conflict avoidant to say it to my face, and I will do the same for them. And that is how you build meaningful, deep connections with people that will serve you and them in the long run. And so that's our kōrero for today. That was such a fun kōrero. I hope I'd love to hear people's thoughts, especially, like I said earlier, other S workers saying like, they found that doing S work helps them with their people-pleasing healing too. But just a few announcements before we sign off. Like I said at the start of this episode, this is potentially our last episode for the year. I quite like to take the last 3 weeks of December off to just rest and recuperate. I'm really trying to implement rest as a form of productivity. I'm an overachiever, but as I'm getting older and my disabilities are really taking hold of my life, I'm learning that it's okay to slow down. It's also a big part of my decolonizing journey. So I like to take the end of the year off from mahi just to rest and recharge. So we will, like I said, this is likely our last episode for the year, but we will be back next year. And as Madeline hinted, we have a very exciting guest joining us from the States. We have so many new topics to cover. We haven't, this is only our 11th episode. We're here to stay. We're not going anywhere anytime soon. We cannot fucking thank you all enough for your support. We started this, a couple of months ago. We're 11 episodes in. Next year, we'll try to have a little bit more consistency with our posting. We both just got hit with a busy time of year. But no, aroha nui to everyone for listening. I'm going to pass to Madeline to say her aroha too, but thank you so much for being on this journey with us, and we intend to next year have a little bit more consistency with our posting. But in the meantime, thank you for sticking with us. We fucking appreciate it, and we appreciate you. How about you, Madeline?
Yes, I guess just the same sentiment. Thank you to everyone who listens. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for all of the things that you tag us in, all of the shout outs that you give us, anyone who has tipped us. Honestly, we're just getting started, eh? I feel like we're 11 episodes in, but we really just every single time become more and more comfortable, and things just flow. Things just flow even more every single time we do one. And so, yeah, we got some cool shit planned for the new year. I have hinted at merch several times. We are working on it. I am trying to find a way for it to be as cheap as possible. Because Lord knows a fucking white t-shirt in fucking Aotearoa these days is so fucking expensive. What the fuck is that all about? So yeah, we're working on that. We'll get you some fucking cool shit in the new year. But otherwise, thank you so much, guys. We've had a blast.
If you're feeling generous this holiday season, feel free to tip us. We appreciate you all so much. We are so excited for the new year. We're so excited for our guests. Oh, you guys are so not ready. This is going to be such a cool kōrero. But we'll be back probably the second or third week of January. And then we will, like I said, try to be a little bit more consistent with weekly, if not fortnightly episodes. But aroha nui to you all. We will see you in the new year. Happy holidays. And if you don't celebrate the holidays, happy summer. Happy whatever time it is where you're at.
Later, skaters.